I'm Jim Holman. I'm the editor of the San Diego Reader newspaper, and I have with me today Tom Walker, who has started his own YouTube channel of San Diego history and other San Diego stories.
It's Southwest history.
Okay, it's
so
Southwest.
We cover the desert and
Wow.
San Diego and all points in between.
Great. Well, we discovered Tom because he did a special video, a 30-minute video or so, or is it more than that?
It was around 30 to 40 something.
on Frank Bompensiero, and he had a lot in there that I thought I'd like to cover. And our previous interviewee, Anthony Dobby, his expertise was kind of Little Italy and its history, so we covered all of that. A little bit of the early years of Bompensiero when he came here. So what I'd like to do is really cover the Bomp's active life as a mob guy, as a mafia hitman, and I think you know that pretty well. So let's begin by talking about after Bompensiero had his trouble in Wisconsin, because his family first immigrated from Porticello to Milwaukee, and then he got involved in a hit of a truck that was coming through, and he was in trouble. And he had to get out of town, and he caught a train,
Right.
hopped a freight train, I think, from Milwaukee, and eventually got here to San Diego. And where did he end up here? Do you remember where he ended up?
If I remember right, he ended up in the Little Italy area around the fishing community.
Yep. And we got a picture of him as a fisherman, on a tuna boat, and he did a little bit of that.
A little bit of that, yeah.
And he ended up somehow getting the help of Mrs. Sanfilippo, his future mother-in-law. And who did she direct him to? Do you remember that?
I don't.
Well, it was to Dragna. She set him
That,
up.
okay, that's right. And I think he was actually renting a place from the San Felipe.
He was renting a place.
Yeah,
He and some other bachelors, Italian bachelors,
Yeah.
Sicilian bachelors, were renting a place in Little Italy here. I believe, let's see, it was either the one on Columbia Street or it was over on Kettner or India Street. Anyway, right here in Little Italy.
Yeah.
And what was the importance of Dragna? This is Frank Dragna now.
Right.
He was up in L.A. He was
up in L.A.
He was the main mafia guy in L.A.
at the time, yeah. And so he had his hands in a lot of things down in San Diego, and San Diego's always kind of been a branch of the LA family, if you want to call it that.
Yeah.
So he needed people down here to help him with whatever his endeavors were.
And that was, this was in the early 1920s. There's some debate about exactly when Bompensiero came, because most people think he came in the early 20s, but he testified in court that he came in 26 or 27. So, he was, the first mention of him that I can recall was he was involved in a bootlegging raid here in Little Italy, where they, I think this must have been the place up in Columbia Street. Maybe it was it was in India Street, only a couple of blocks north of where the old Reader office was. And he got involved in a raid there, and they found all this illegal booze, and they charged him. I don't think he went to jail for that charge. I think it was a little bit later on in 1930 that he actually went to jail for a year for selling illegal booze.
Right.
And I don't know. It's not really clear that Dragna got him into that business. I think maybe there was just a lot of people in that business.
There was a lot of people in that business at the time.
Yeah, and Judith Moore, in her book that we will refer to, A Bad, Bad Boy, she talks about how the Sicilians, they had much more loyalty to their own families than they did to the government. So
absolutely,
for them, breaking the law wasn't as big a deal as it would be for gringos. But anyway, he gets out of that year in jail, but by then it's clear that he owes Dragna. He has this feeling of loyalty, and that's the other thing. I don't know if you were struck by this, that in Judith Moore's book, she has incredible sympathy for Bompensiero. She thinks of him as kind of a nice mafia guy because he was so good with his family. And so
he was good with his family, and he was very loyal. And that comes up later with the O'Donnells.
Yeah. Well, So, anyway, the other thing that she describes him as is a soldato. He's a soldier.
Right.
He's a soldier. He's not doing it because he hates people or he's a bad guy.
He just does what he's told.
He does what he's told. He's part of an army.
Right.
And I was pretty struck by that.